What's up guys, Mike here, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Sony a6300. Now if you've been following the channel for a while, you probably will have noticed that almost every single video I've uploaded has had to do something with the Sony a6300, whether it be making a video with it or taking photos with it in the city or in the mountains somewhere. I've owned this camera for almost 3 years and I've never made a review of it. That changes today with this video. Let's go. So the Sony a6300 was released in February 2016. I picked it up in December 2016, which brings my ownership to about 2.5 years, just over 2.5 years at this point. During that time, I've made dozens of videos. I've taken almost 8,000 photos, I believe I'm up to now with this camera, both casually and professionally. And if you're interested in seeing any of those videos or photos, please take a look at the other videos on this channel. There are plenty of them. I bring this every casual or professional shoot I do. I bring this camera out with me to use. I've recently picked up the Sony a6500, which is almost the exact same as this one. Anyways, if you are interested in seeing the video quality or the photo quality of this camera, please check out the rest of the videos on my channel. There are a lot of them. And in case you guys are wondering, this is not the kit lens. I decided to purchase this camera without the kit lens. I think this kit lens was like 16 to 50 or 16 to 55 mil, something like that. This is the Sony 10 to 18 millimeter f4 lens. I may make a review on that later, I'm not sure. But this is not the kit lens, I just picked up the body alone. I will leave a link to this camera in the description if you guys are interested in checking it out on Amazon. The price has dropped a lot since I purchased it. So my experience with the Sony a6300 may be a little bit different than that of other YouTubers. One of the reasons I've waited so long to make this video is that this is actually the first camera, the first semi-professional camera that I've ever used. And I really have nothing to compare it to, which makes making a video like this and kind of doing a formal review on it somewhat difficult because I don't have any kind of standard or any other kind of previous knowledge or experience on which to base my experience with this camera on. A few years ago, I pretty much learned the basics of photography on my iPhone, and then shortly after that, picked up this camera because there's only so much you can do on the iPhone. You can't really implement many of the things that would make a photo good on the iPhone as you could with a semi-professional camera like this one. So keep that in mind throughout the video. I have very little or no experience with Canon's or Nikon's modern day equivalents to the Sony a6300. I used the Canon M50 for a few hours. The video of my experience with the Canon M50 is on my channel. I'll link it up here if you guys are interested in watching that. But other than that, I really have no experience with any other cameras, so keep that in mind while you're watching the rest of this review. So let's get the things that I have very little experience with the camera out of the way kind of first, so we can dive into things that I do have a lot more experience in. I don't have much experience filming in 4K with this. Now I know at the initial release there were some issues with heating. With this camera filming in 4K, I have filmed in 4K a couple times it's been more like just kind of seeing what it's like, and I really have no need to film in 4K, so I don't do it all that much, but I didn't experience any heating issues. Filming in 1080p with this camera, I experienced no heating issues. It does get a little warm to the touch, but it doesn't get hot by any stretch of the imagination. I also don't think that I've dropped this camera at all. It has taken a beating, especially during like astrophotography shoots out at night where I really can't really see things around me and I'm walking around through the woods or something like that. I have brushed this up against trees and limbs and bushes and things like that. I don't think I've dropped it, but it's withstood the test of time over 2.5, 3 years very well. There's literally no scratches on it whatsoever. Even the LCD screen back here, I'm not sure if you guys can see, like it has some fingerprints on it, but that's about it. No scratches. This camera, the Sony a6300, has been an absolute joy to work with out in the field, both casually and professionally. It does 11 frames per second. I've had no need to shoot that fast yet. I don't think I ever will, but if I do, it's there. The viewfinder has an incredibly good resolution. In fact, I remember the first time I looked through the viewfinder, I was like, wow. Because I think the last time I'd used a camera like this before that has been years. I don't know the exact resolution of the viewfinder, but it's very good quality. The LCD screen as well is very good quality. I love the fact that since this is a mirrorless camera, pretty much what you see on in the viewfinder and on the LCD screen is what you get. And that's actually one of the reasons I picked this camera up in the first place, because with me being a beginner photographer, I didn't want to have to worry about like figuring out histograms and trial and error looking through the viewfinder and having my shot come out terribly. I very much love being able to mess around with the exposure and the ISO and the aperture values and see the effects back here on the viewfinder, and basically having that come out to like what I see back here is what I get. When I was kind of looking around for a professional camera, or a more professional camera than my iPhone to use, I was looking at Canon and Nikon. I was looking at the Nikon D5100, and I don't remember I think it was the Canon Rebel series as well. I ended up going with Sony because Canon and Nikon didn't have any mirrorless cameras out at the time. They do now, but at the time they didn't. And I'm extremely glad I went with Sony over those other brands. I have used a Canon 5D Mark III or 4, I believe it was, for like 5 minutes, and it was very heavy compared to this one, which I didn't know at the time regular DSLRs were so much heavier than mirrorless cameras, but this is extremely light. Even vlogging with it is super easy. I mean, well, the lens has a lot to do with that as well, but like the camera body is super light. This camera body with this lens, and I believe with the kit lens as well, the kit lens isn't very heavy, vlogging is super easy. Like, your arm doesn't get tired. I don't know, like if you're doing YouTube videos or things like that, the weight in your arm getting tired is just one less thing you have to worry about, and it makes your life that much easier. So if you're looking around YouTube and researching the Sony a6300 or Sony a6500 as like entry-level semi-professional cameras to get into, I would highly recommend this one. There are a lot of good things about it. There are some negatives about it. For example, again with vlogging, with vlogging, it would be nice to see yourself. This screen, the LCD screen, flips up and it goes down a little bit, but it doesn't twist around so you can see yourself, which I was kind of frustrated at first, but over time I've gotten used to it, especially if you have a wide angle lens, like this lens goes all the way to 10 millimeters. You don't really have to worry about that too much, because at 10, 12, even 14 millimeters, you pretty much get a nice wide angle. You see a lot of stuff, and it's very forgiving in terms of where, like, the angle that you have the lens at in terms of trying to catch your face with everything else in the frame. But it would be nice if the LCD screen flipped around and you could see it. Now Sony has changed that with the a6400 they just came out with a few months ago. With the a6400, I believe the LCD screen flips out and it can come all the way over to the top. But still, what's kind of frustrating with me about that is if you want to have another microphone, like a Rode mic, for example, that goes right over here, it kind of defeats the purpose of the flip-up LCD screen. So I was kind of left scratching my head with that decision, but I don't have any experience with the a6400, so it may be fine. Another thing that I believe could be better with this camera is the battery life. The battery life, for photography, the battery life is fine. For video, the battery life, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I found myself kind of worrying about battery life if I'm going out on a shoot and I'm trying to take photos, I'm trying to make a video of the experience put on YouTube as well. I've never had to change a battery mid-shoot, thankfully, but I've gotten pretty close, and it would be nice if the batteries lasted just a little bit longer. But all in all, I don't really have many negative things to say about the Sony a6300. I do have a video coming out that's going to be more specifically about things that I don't like about it, and also one that's going to be more specifically about things that I do like about it. But just to give a general overview of the camera so far, in my 3-year experience, 2.5-year experience owning this camera so far, like I said before, it's been an absolute joy to shoot with. I've been able to grow as a photographer with this camera. I've been able to learn on it without any problems whatsoever. And I don't know, this camera kind of holds a special place in my heart. Just because I feel like I've grown to become a professional photographer with this piece of hardware. I've taken photos with this that I've been able to license to government organizations and websites and things like that, and I've also done professional photo shoots, more than made my money back that I've spent on accessories and things like this for the Sony a6300. In fact, I just sealed a 5-figure deal with a client that I've been working with for a while, and this is going to be the camera that I bring, as well as the a6500 here. The Sony a6300 is more than capable of bringing somebody with zero knowledge of photography to becoming a professional photographer, because that's exactly my experience. Nothing about this is too complicated. The menu system is very easily navigatable. The buttons on the back are pretty self-explanatory once you kind of get the basics of photography down. Learning the overall like operation, the science of operating the Sony a6300 is fairly straightforward. Just came to my mind, I remember the flash up here. I've never actually used the flash. There are actually a lot of things that I've never used on this camera, which says a lot. I've used it, I've had this for almost 3 years. I've become a professional photographer with it, and there are still things in it that I don't use, that I wouldn't even know how to access because I have no need for them. So I think that says a lot about how much stuff that Sony's packed into this camera. There's just a lot of capabilities with it, and it's more than enough to learn on, to grow with, and to even start earning an income with. So with all that being said, is the Sony a6300 worth it in 2019? Yes, my opinion is definitely, especially since you can pick it up now for like $750, or even depending on when you're watching this video, could be even less than that. What you get for the price is absolutely amazing. Now, the only reason I think I would suggest picking up the Sony a6500 rather than the Sony a6300 is if you think you're going to be using a lot of lenses that are either not Sony or they're vintage lenses. So lenses like, for example, the Sigma 16mm f1.4 like I have, what I'm filming with here. And the reason for that is because the 6300 does not have in-body stabilization in it. Whereas the Sony a6500 does. And if you think you're going to be using a lot of different lenses and things like that, you may want to go ahead and pick up the a6500. It may be worth the extra few $100s because you do get that in-body stabilization, which you wouldn't with this one. But other than that, I would strongly recommend this camera in 2019 and in the years following it, unless pretty much until technology changes to the point where this is just severely out of date. If you guys are interested in seeing the photo quality, the video quality of the Sony a6300, please browse my channel. I've got plenty of videos that I've made with this. You can also look at my website, mikethemathman.com. I'll link that in the description below as well. Also, if you're interested in any more reviews having to do with the Sony a6300 or the Sony a6500, different equipment I use with it, etc., be sure to hit the subscribe button. I've got a lot more videos coming up about that stuff. And with all that being said, I think we're going to end the video here. Again, thank you for watching. See you next time.